From India.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out on such a wet, cold afternoon. On behalf of Professor Henrik Schatzinger and myself, Brian Smith, we're co-directors of the Center for Politics and the People. We welcome you to another event on an important public policy issue, nuclear weapons. It's really a delight and an honor to have back on campus one of our most illustrious alumnus, Kathryn Schultz of the class of '89. I think some of your professors are here in the audience, and you certainly know and remember people. Kathryn serves currently as the Senior Advisor in the State Department's Bureau of International Security and Nonproliferation. It's called ISN. She also serves as the South and Central Asia Team Leader in ISN's Office of Regional Affairs. She has 26 years of professional experience in Washington on non-proliferation of weapons, disarmament, and security issues, of which 16 have been focused on South Asia. As such, she develops and implements policies to promote strategic stability and to foster a stronger non-proliferation partnership with India and Pakistan. Kathryn previously served in the U.S. Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, which is a government agency, before its merger into the State Department in 1999. Prior to joining government, she served as Senior Research Analyst at the nonprofit Center for Defense Information in Washington, and as a Herbert Scoville Jr. Peace Fellow at the British American Security Information Council, also in Washington, D.C. During her tenure at CDI, she wrote extensively on nuclear disarmament, proliferation, ballistic missile defenses, and European security issues, and produced programs for CDI's weekly television program, America's Defense Monitor, winning 2 National Film Awards. All of this with her liberal arts education from Ripon College. She is a 1989 graduate of the college that I explained, where she majored in politics and government and minored in music. Fine breadth of majors. She is an avid singer. She has sung with Colin Powell. Maybe in the discussion period you'll explain the lyrics she wrote with Secretary Powell and how you sang them. She's involved with 4 choirs in the Washington area, including serving as the founder and director of the State Department's own choral ensemble. So it's with great honor and gratitude to welcome back one of our most illustrious graduates, Kathryn Schultz. Our format will be the following. Kathryn, as a representative of the State Department, has to clear her presentations before she gives them. This presentation has been cleared, and it will be videotaped for cable TV in Ripon and also live streamed on YouTube. However, the question and answer period, which will come after her presentation, is off the record. So at that point, we would ask people to turn off their cameras, stop taking notes for publication, and if you're audio or videoing this with your cell phones, we ask you during the question and answer period to turn them off. She'll give her formal presentation, and then I will begin the question period with her to begin the conversation, and then we will open it up to the audience. So, Kathryn.
Great, thank you, Brian. Everybody hear me okay? Great, thanks. Thank you so much for inviting me here to speak with you today. It's really good to be back in Ripon. Some things have changed since I graduated. The food in the Commons is far better than it used to be. And there are more stop-and-go lights in town. I can attest to that. But other things like the quality of the education and the warmth of the Ripon family, those are just as vibrant today, if not more so. So it's great to be back here in the homeland. Let me extend a special thanks to Dr. Brian Smith and Dr. Henrik Schatzinger for co-directors of the Center for Politics and the People for inviting me here today to speak with you. And also let me give a special thanks to Ripon College President Dr. Zach Massetti for his leadership of the college and for establishing this center. I was a junior in Ripon when Brian Smith joined the college back in 1987. That was the year that a student group that I was part of, now form the Political Discussion and Action Committee, with Dr. Marty Farrell as our faculty advisor, took on the project of holding a week of education on the nuclear arms and nuclear weapons issues. So now, nearly 30 years from that autumn symposium on nuclear issues, in which both Dr. Smith and Dr. Farrell spoke, it's nice to come back to Ripon and revisit those set of issues with you today. Specifically taking stock of the successes we've had, the challenges we continue to face, and what we're still trying to do about them with respect to preventing the further spread of nuclear weapons and reducing the likelihood of their use. So first, let me talk about the successes. It's difficult to measure success in my business. Success is oftentimes when something bad doesn't happen, or when something worse doesn't occur. So, but that said, there are some tangible successes we can point to over the years. We've averted the scenario that President Kennedy predicted back in 1963, that in the not too distant future from 63, that as many as 25 states might possess nuclear weapons. Today, only a few countries have nuclear weapons, fewer than 1/3 the number that Kennedy predicted. That success is in thanks large part to the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty, went into force in 1970, which successfully established an international legal framework against the proliferation of nuclear weapons. And to date, nearly every country on the planet has signed and joined that treaty, the NPT. The only countries that never joined are India, Pakistan, and Israel. And the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, plays an important dual role, both in helping its member states apply nuclear energy, science, and technology for peaceful purposes, and as the international watchdog on guard for signs that peaceful nuclear programs may be misused for weapons. As President Obama said in Prague in 2009, at the beginning of his administration, the basic bargain of the NPT remains sound. Countries with nuclear weapons will move toward disarmament. Countries without nuclear weapons will not acquire them. And all countries can access peaceful nuclear energy. Also, in terms of successes, one of our most significant recent non-proliferation achievements has been the successful conclusion of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. We have acronyms for everything. With Iran, which after years of negotiation will now ensure that Iran's nuclear program is and will remain exclusively peaceful. The JCPOA has succeeded in rolling back Iran's nuclear program, avoiding further conflict and making us safer. IAEA reports have confirmed that Iran is complying with its JCPOA commitments. As a result, all of Iran's pathways to a nuclear weapons program remain closed, and Iran's breakout time has been extended from 2 to 3 months to almost a year. And that, I think, is really critical. The JCPOA is a measurable step away from the danger of nuclear proliferation and represents the most intrusive inspection and verification program ever negotiated for a nuclear program. It demonstrates what can be achieved by principled diplomacy and a sustained commitment to stopping the spread of nuclear weapons. Let me throw out another success. In my view, the greatest achievement over the last 8 years with respect to reducing dangers in the nuclear world has been the focused international attention on nuclear security, and also the tangible achievements in many countries with respect to nuclear security around the world. For example, since President Obama launched the Nuclear Security Summit process, which he launched in 2009 in Prague, 13 countries, plus Taiwan, have given up weapons-usable plutonium and highly enriched uranium entirely. An additional 12 countries have decreased their stockpiles of nuclear materials. Countries have improved nuclear security at nuclear facilities and installed radiation detection equipment at more than 300 international border crossings, airports, and seaports. And through the work surrounding the summits, we've strengthened the international organizations, the institutions, and the legal instruments that make up the global nuclear security architecture. That's really critical. So I think we have done a lot to reduce those nuclear dangers. But there are challenges that are real and significant that remain. There's the global challenge of nonproliferation, or how to prevent the further spread of weapons of mass destruction and the associated materials and technology. So while the NPT is nearly universal, the technology to make nuclear weapons has spread, and terrorists, as we all know, actively seek these weapons. While far fewer than the numbers I mentioned that President Kennedy predicted, additional countries have acquired nuclear weapons since the NPT went into force. India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons, and unlike the trend worldwide, are building more. Moreover, as you've all seen in the press, North Korea, after being found in non-compliance and announcing its withdrawal from the NPT, has since conducted no fewer than 5 nuclear tests. Another challenge related to nuclear weapons relates to non-use, that is, how to promote strategic stability and reduce the likelihood that nuclear weapons are actually used. Looking at South Asia, which is my particular focus, there's a risk that a conventional conflict between India and Pakistan could escalate to include nuclear use. So you may ask, what are we doing to try to deal with all these challenges? So with respect to the challenge of the spread of technology, it's important that we raise barriers to high-risk transfers that could result in diversion or transfer of US technology, equipment, and material to weapons purposes, while at the same time we want to make sure that we're maximizing legitimate trade. But we have to remember that the system is only as strong as the weakest link, and we live in an international world. So it's imperative that all countries with nuclear technology have strong strategic trade controls and fully enforce them. So the United States has this program called the Export Control and Related Border Security Program, EXPAS, to help countries strengthen their controls. And we cooperate with many countries around the planet through EXPAS. In terms of terrorists seeking nuclear weapons, we recognize that one of the gravest dangers to the United States is nuclear weapons in the hands of a terrorist. One of the ways we seek to prevent this threat is through this initiative called the Global Initiative to Combat Nuclear Terrorism, GICNT, also another acronym. Under this effort, partners from 86 countries work together to develop activities to promote and share best practices and lessons learned in areas related to preventing, detecting, and responding to nuclear terrorism. I think one of the important things to remember about the GICNT is that this effort brings together the various players involved, not just the diplomats like me, the scientists, or the military folks, but also law enforcement and intelligence and first responders. So it really is a whole of government thinking about these challenges. Looking at the other challenge of North Korea, which is a huge challenge, we remain deeply concerned about a regime that has not only tested nuclear weapons in violation of its international obligations and commitments, but has coupled these tests with the development of delivery systems and rhetoric aimed increasingly at the United States and its allies. That's why we continue to work with our international partners to maintain robust deterrent capabilities, while at the same time vigorously implementing a host of UN Security Council resolutions designed to impede further work on North Korea's nuclear program. With respect to India and Pakistan and reducing the likelihood of nuclear use, we have regular engagements with both countries on a wide range of non-proliferation, security, and strategic stability issues. And we encourage all countries with nuclear weapons to exercise restraint in their nuclear and missile programs. We especially encourage India and Pakistan to consider ways to build confidence with one another, to decrease tensions and reduce risks so as to further a more stable situation in South Asia. So looking ahead, as we think about the next 30 years and what the world might look like when you return to your alma mater in 30 years from now, let me point you to another quotation by President Kennedy, whom I quoted at the beginning. More than half a century ago, when President Kennedy was proposing a treaty to ban nuclear tests, he said, "There is no single simple key No grand or magic formula to be adopted by one or two powers. Genuine peace must be a product of many nations, the sum of many acts. So too is the case of preventing the further spread of nuclear weapons and preventing and reducing the likelihood of their use, in my belief. The sum of many acts by many players will be needed, and it will take time. When President Obama outlined his nuclear policy priorities in Prague at the outset of his administration, including his goal of one day realizing a world without nuclear weapons, he stressed not only the national security reasons for pursuing these goals, but also the ethical dimensions of taking on these challenges. Pointing to the threat of nuclear weapons, the president noted that no nuclear war was fought between the United States and the Soviet Union, but generations lived with the knowledge that their world could be destroyed in a single flash of light. One nuclear weapon exploded in one city, be it New York or Moscow, Islamabad or Mumbai, Tokyo or Tel Aviv, Paris or Prague, could kill hundreds of thousands of people. He went on to note that just as we stood for freedom in the 20th century, we must stand together for the right of people everywhere to live free from fear in the 21st century. As the only nuclear power to have used a nuclear weapon, the United States has a moral responsibility to act. We cannot succeed in this endeavor alone, but we can lead it, we can start it. So as I've noted, we've had various successes over the years in preventing proliferation and in reducing nuclear dangers, but we've got many challenges ahead of us. There's no simple fix, there's no easy answer. Many countries will need to be involved, and it will take time. Now, seeing as how I'm in Packer country, and I know not everybody may be a Packer fan, but I'm in Packer country, let me close with a quotation from legendary head coach Vince Lombardi, who said that people who work together will win, whether it be against complex football defenses or the problems of modern society. I like to think that Vince had it right, even when it comes to winning against the nuclear dangers of the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathryn, for a very stimulating and informative opening presentation. We will have to ask those with cell phones or cameras to turn them off now, since the question and answer period